Alright, so before we begin, we just want to make sure that you know about the free tool replit.com, which allows you to code Python online. It's a free software that you can use online with your Google Gmail account. So just go ahead and sign up if you haven't already. So we're going to be using this for the examples. So hop on over and we'll see you over there. Alright, so we have the function here loaded up into a REPL. And what we want to do here is to create some test cases so that we can know what the output will be when the function runs. As you can see, we're using a text string here demo, which is all lowercase, and it gives a run. The value is true, and it also is going to do the others. Demo in full caps is false. Let me just clear the output and just run it from scratch just to show you. Alright, the second example that we tested, all caps, there's definitely no lowercase there. But notice in the third one, there are lowercase letters there after the capital D, but it still gives false. So what we can say about this function is that the first function here is only testing the first character. Alright, so let's look at the second example. Let's clear the Replit console. Alright, so let me show you how to call a function from scratch here. You always want to count the number of brackets you use. Notice in this case here, we have the first bracket for the print statement, so you put that in first. That's always a good idea. Put the print function first and then fill in with your other function. So the name of it is any under lowercase 2, and then now the function has its own brackets for the parameter, and we're going to be adding demo and the other versions of demo. All right, so let us comment out the previous one so that it doesn't do any output, just to make sure that we don't confuse it with what we're running for the second function. All right, so let's go ahead and run. All right, as we can see here, it's printing true for everything, even though the third one, uh, this should be false because there are no lowercase there. So what actually is happening here, this is the line that's responsible for it always being true, because it's actually checking this as a string rather than a variable as iterated. Here's the difference with the first one. This is just a variable that loops through all the letters in DEMO, DEMO, DEMO. But because we fixed it here as a string, it's actually comparing that. So just for example, if I remove those quotations from around it, let's see what happens. See, now it gives you accurate results, right? We have this first and second one. They do have a lowercase character, but it's only checking the first one. All right, but of course, the way it actually was before is that it had this quotation mark there, so it's actually checking a string within the lower function itself. So it's always going to be printing true for those. All right, so let's comment out these and go to the other one. All right, clear the console here. And in this case here, we have a variable called flag. Now, this is the original function here, but what you can do to help yourself to understand the function is just modify it to see what's inside of it. So I'm going to have it here printing inside the function. Flag is, and let me, all right, so let me call flag here. So any underscore lowercase 3, and let me directly add demo there. All right, so let's run this and see what happens. All right, so it's given true 4 times. So it would have stopped at the first one because notice that it's returning flag once it hits this condition being true. So if it's true the first time, it's gonna run it. Let's switch around and see what happens with a capital D for start. Let me clear this console and run. I'm just using one example in this case, not 3 different examples. So notice that the first run, it goes as false. It runs a couple other times and it's true all those other times. So you're seeing basically what's happening here. Flag is simply a variable that's containing the Boolean value true or false. Okay. All right. So remember, this is the code that we actually added to the original, so you could remove it after. It's just to help you to understand how the code works. Let's check the fourth example. So let's clear the console here. And we know that flag is a variable here, so we can just go ahead and just check it. So let's do the function call, lowercase 4. Let's start with all lowercase. And let's wrap that with a print statement. Run the code, and it is true. All right, let's try to do other versions. Let's try with the first one being capital. Also true, so this one is actually checking the other characters. Let's just confirm it with the all caps version of demo. All right, and that result is not surprising because we realize that it does check that at least one letter is lowercase. All right, so of course there is a fifth one, but I'll leave that for you to practice and do that as a bonus for yourself.